are live. If we're live and you can see this, retweet this out. Yes.
I think it's working.
I think it's working. Welcome. Welcome, 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 everybody. Let's wait a couple of minutes here while a few people join. So what's up? What's up, Lofus?
Hey, good evening. Good evening. Here I was having a nice little evening in all of the sun. I just decided to look at some of the on-chain data on Cardano and see where we were a few days ago, see if we've added some whales, do we add whales or do we add some investors? What's the position? And I was very pleasantly surprised to see some, good progress in the last 2 days. So I was like, you know what? So that's when I texted you and I said, what do you want to do about it? Should we just tweet it out, or should we do a live show and call it like our Friday night live? So
I think I said on my Twitter feed that I was going to do a lot more live shows like this because it's just way more fun. And I also just hate editing videos. So I figured it's just a lot more fun to do things off the cuff this way, especially when things are happening and with the DXY, with the looks like it's rolling over and stuff like this happens very momentarily. There's not time to record and edit, and people want to know this information right away. So it's good to do these live videos.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just if you're on this and you're following us, and just retweet this live stream. This is the first time we're doing a live stream on Twitter, so it'd be really helpful to get the word out. And we do plan on bringing these impromptu live streams pretty regularly to you guys, as long as we keep getting good feedback on it. So please retweet this if you see this. And also, if you're on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. So you found something on the charts, Lofus?
I did. So let's get into it. I mean,
go ahead, please.
It's been quite a few exciting days, right? There's been a lot of things happening. So let's see let's see where we are. See, there you go. I mean, listen, first of all, here's the thing, right? I think there's a little bit of a potential bear market, even in the traditional markets. I mean, I would like to think on the S&P, the resistance zone was about 4150. So as you can see, we closed right below it. VIX was really up 11%, and then you really had a lot of redness across the board, right? Interesting enough, right? This is a Dixie. We talked about this, right? It almost put in 104, right? I think I had like the bottom as 104.
What did I make? What did I call? I think it overshot my call. I think I said like 102 and a quarter, and it just went right past that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the 104, maybe a little bit even 106. And I think that's when then the euro is gonna be at par, right? That'll be maybe like when you'll be able to be a really good time to buy some euros for anyone going on vacation during the summer. But yeah, everything is down besides VIX, right? And then interestingly enough, I'm shocked, right? So the dollar was, the Dixie is pretty high, and the ruble just keeps appreciating versus the dollar.
That's interesting. And I think I saw someone post a chart earlier today showing that almost every currency in the Forex is currently down against the USD, except for maybe the ruble, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a bit unusual. Also, if anyone out there is interested in macro, I recommend Raoul Paul and listening to his macro analyses on a regular basis, because there's insights there that you won't get anywhere else. And there's some very, very far out thesis on people saying that there are people that really think that this the DXY, the dollar index, it's gonna pump because of a supply shock in dollars. But I can't explain that, so you're gonna have to go and watch Raoul Paul's streams on that. But definitely interesting stuff and something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, so let's see, right? Because the euro is at now 105. So so that's a good one. So I kind of see that, right? Gold really hasn't done that much, if you really ask me, right? It's still below 1900. Silver below 23. I mean, I look at copper
I remember I
Well,
was crying when I sold my gold at 1865, not thinking it was gonna, I thought it was just gonna come back, and it is coming back. So I don't feel as bad about selling my
yeah,
gold at 1865 anymore.
yeah, exactly. Lumber, way too high. Oil is at 104.
Yeah.
That could be, I don't know if it's stabilizing or it's going to put another, it's going to go up closer to the 130 and beyond. 10-year yield, right? That really hasn't, I had it coming in. I had it going a little bit higher than that. So, I mean, I think there's a couple of more interest rate hikes, right, that are going to be coming. So let's see how the market reacts to that,
Yeah,
right?
curious to see how all the yields behave
Hmm.
with the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, ADA right now it's such a steal. I mean, the moment starts getting close to 80 cents, I think that's a pretty damn good steal. So we're gonna have to see what
Yeah.
that what
I
happens
mean,
here.
I'm seeing a lot of analysis showing the alt market, the alt perp chart is currently building a sort of like an accumulation bottom, like a horizontal base.
Mhm.
And to me, I mean, that just in confluence with everything else that we're going to look at, it's a bullish indicator. But not financial advice, of course. Things can definitely go lower, but I'm optimistic.
Yep. All right. So let's look at the interesting on-chain data on Cardano. So let's first get grounded on something. So I'm gonna say around April 13 or so, when I first saw this chart. At that point, we actually had added two whales. At that point, within 2 weeks, we added two whales. Um, so just notice, right? So middle of April, we had the whales were holding on to about 3.3 billion of ADAs, and investors were sitting on 3.8, right? Then early this week, when we last spoke, you and I, on April 25th, there was actually a little bit of movement. So by early this week, we went down to two whales, right? Clearly, there's going to be some kind of like wallet consolidation or what have you. And I'm sure there was something also that came over from the retail, right? Well, some of someone's ADAs, because then all of a sudden, the ADAs jumped from 3.3 to like 23 here, 23.2, right? But nonetheless, investors, right, within 2 weeks or so, within that period, yeah, for the 12 days or so, right, they've added a billion ADAs. Well, let's take a look at what happened today. All right, significant consolidation, right? So now Into the Block is reporting only one whale, but they're reporting 26.8. So that's I'm going to say 3.6 billion ADAs added by whales in the last 3 days.
So
And
whale
then I think,
accumulation is happening on a pretty big scale, I would say. That's not a small amount of ADA.
no, but then if I'm like, if I'm like Mike Alfred or some of these fudders, they're going to be like, well, that's the Cardano, society, or Cardano community, or
What do we call it? The
IOHK, or
buyback program?
yeah, the buyback program or some nonsense, right? So, okay, all right. But then let's take a look at the investors, right? So within the last 3 days, we actually added an investor, and we actually, the investors, that maybe that one investor has added a billion ADAs, a little bit less than a billion, call it a little bit less, because it went from 4.8 to like 5.7. So they've added 0.9 billion ADAs. So that just happened in the last 2 days. So I think that's quite telling.
So how would you interpret that? Like, what's the story behind that, in your opinion, or what can we say the implications
Well,
of something like that are?
it's this chart, right? I mean, I think it's really is this chart. It's the
Like a
fact.
bottom is forming. Like there, people, the market makers are buying here.
I'm gonna have to say yes. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to say yes, because, right, if you look at this, where are we on the weekly, right? Let's see. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger, right? But I'm not seeing a significant dump here in the accumulation distribution, right? So that's not, right, from the RSI on the weekly, we're still good. And this to me is telling. I mean, look at for how long the price has been in the red, that momentum,
Yeah.
right? And then look at this little this poor excuse of any kind of attempt. And then you can clearly see like the volume is actually quite nice here, right? So when you look at it, you do see a little bit of a pickup in volume, and that's just this week. So let's look at that on the daily. Yeah, so you see a little bit of a pickup on the volume. So I like to see that. That to me is, makes me feel that the ADAs that I recently bought, I did at the right time.
Yeah,
And
it's not very much accelerating now anymore, as it is just seeming to sort of stay in its sort of price range and hover around these levels. It's not seeming like there's not much pressure on it, or if there is pressure, there's not enough pressure to put. There's more buying pressure at these levels, absorbing the sales pretty quickly. It's not crashing through support. It's holding up pretty nicely.
right, right, right. Now let's look at the wall, right? Let's look at the wall. I always like to look at the wall and see if what does it tell us? Okay, so we're here. All right, so if we do break through, then I think you're going to see some significant amount of around 73 cents. Right, that's when you have this little bit of volume here, as you can see right there. And that's interesting because that was this little dip here, right? So do I think that it could still go back? Could it wick down to about 70 some? It's like the low 70s, like a 72, 73, 74, possibly.
Yeah, that's always in the cards.
Like a 75, yeah. Is it going to stay there for very long?
Probably not. It might spike down maybe for a few minutes. I mean, it could stay there for a day, but I don't think it's going to be a prolonged period of time where people are going to be scooping that up like madmen. Whatever whale is in the pond right now, it's going to absorb all of that.
Oh, absolutely. So do I think, if it goes back into the 75 zone, do I think this number is going to become like a 23, and there'll be another, who knows, maybe another $500 million, $1 billion of ADAs added to the whale? Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. I know I'll be.
What would you do to find out who that whale is?
Well, that's a very good question, right? So then, excuse me. I mean, you could look at the on-chain, and you could look at the individual wallets, and to be able to determine that. If I had a little bit more time, I would probably dissect. I would try to attempt to dissect the blockchain and identify. Put that one wallet now on my radar, and then get an update. Right, almost like every couple of hours, and be like, all right, what came in, what left? Is that wallet still accumulating, or are they transferring funds out? And I think that could be pretty now telling.
Yeah.
Because if you look at when you look at it, I mean, Bitcoin has the same thing. See, like look at that. When you look at it across the board here, now Cardano is in the same position as Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has one big whale, except that it has a 28% concentration, right? But Bitcoin is one wallet that only has 1%.
Interesting. So what does the correlation of the dollar index and crypto in general look like at the moment?
Let's look at, yeah. I mean, to me, it's just, I think Bitcoin is a good one.
I'd be curious, how much is 28% of, or whatever, how much is the supply that the whale's holding? Is 25% or something like that? So what would that come out to be? I'm curious. So
like in terms of dollars, or?
Yeah, I guess. So we're looking, well, in general, right? We have 25% or so of the total supply is in the hands of one wallet or one individual or whatever. If that's if that's what that means, right? So the circulating supply currently of Cardano, I'll have to look that up on.
Yeah, take a look. Let's
Yeah,
take a look.
I'm looking at that. I'm just curious, right? So
You have CoinGecko up? You want me to stop sharing?
yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's 20 fully diluted valuation. Okay, here we go. Total supply 45 billion, circulating supply 32 billion approximately. So 32 billion. Do the math real quick here on my calculator, just for fun.
So hold on now. So that's a really good question.
That's about 8 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one individual or one wallet, one organization, whatever it is, this one whale has 8 billion ADA. Not bad. Good for them. They're gonna do very well.
Yeah, but now hold on here. Now, so does that really make sense though?
Does it?
Because you're saying
that's what I was thinking. It's a bit much, right, for one individual to have that much of the supply.
Well, the question is like, how much is in circulation? You're saying it should be 30-some billion.
Well, according to CoinGecko data, it's 30. What did I say? 32 billion approximately. Yeah.
So right here, yeah. So that's right here. I'm getting like 31. So I think we need a call with. I think we need to get a call. We need to get a call with Into the Block.
Right.
Because I would like to think that these coins should not exceed more than what's in circulation.
So if you total that up, I guess there's no total column there, but
I mean, it's like, roughly 27, 4,
oh, it's saying
31.
26. Well, maybe the definition of circulating supply is different than what they have on there, but I guess we need a little bit more time to analyze it. Maybe it's not a good idea to do it live.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll move on. But that whale's got a lot of ADA.
They sure do.
26 billion is what it's saying.
Yeah. No, they sure do.
Okay.
But the investors, I think for me, it's the investors. What are the investors doing? And the fact that they've added 0.9 billion ADAs and there's an additional investor now, I think that to me is a bit more promising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with the correlation of BTC, I think I might want to share my screen here in a second and look and kind of go share my my ADABTC chart with you and show you something that I've been following here. So let's see here. Let me just open up my screen. Okay, here we go. So let's look at my ADABTC chart here. And so the reason I'm tracking this is because I'm trying to measure where ADA is going to go. And if this support holds, which may or may not, I have a target up here of the upper bound range here. It's a 300. That's a 300% return on Bitcoin, not on dollars. In just this range here, and it could be even more, but that's the potential that I'm seeing for ADA, and that's why I'm so bullish. I just wanted to share that to show people that I'm optimistic. I think we're at the bottom. I don't think there's very much more distance to go down. If there is, it's still worth weathering it out and doing whatever I have to do, or I don't know what your situation is, but I'm doing whatever I have to do to not sell out and just to hold, because to me, this pattern here, it's bound to reverse. And when it does, the upper bound range is going to be far more, the upside is far greater than the downside. And so the risk to reward to me is just significant, and it's worth doing whatever I have to do in order to maintain my position. So that's all I really wanted to share. So that's it for now.
No, I
So
like it.
yeah,
I think it's a good, I think it's a realistic forecast.
yeah, and it's a 300% on Bitcoin, not USD. So that's a lot more. If Bitcoin goes up 2x from here, that's a 600% return on USD, right? So basically, where we're at now, like it's a dollar, so $6 basically. So, somebody asked me what my price prediction was, and I'm like in the $4 to $8 range. $6 would be incredible. It'd be a great deal. But I'd be happy with $4, and I plan on averaging out at those levels. But I'm definitely not selling here. Absolutely not. You couldn't. I mean, maybe if you put a gun to my head.
Yeah, no, this is not the time to be selling. This is the time to be scaling in.
Yeah,
Closer it gets to 80, and definitely when it starts going below, that's when you start,
yeah.
right? You start
And,
backing up the truck.
and I feel like everybody's sort of in the same position. Not everybody, but a lot of people are kind of like where I'm at, where I basically dollar cost averaged all the way down to the point where I'm like out of funds to basically dollar cost average anymore. So I've done what I can do, and I'm right here with you guys. We're in this together, right? So we just gotta sit tight, be patient, and whenever I start to feel sort of pessimistic, I think about the people who I wasn't in Cardano as early as some of the other investors have been, and these other guys are sitting there. They're not on Twitter. These guys are retired. They're in the they're in their island or something like that. They're not thinking about this moment as a bear market. They've made their money, and we're gonna be those people too. So I want to give everyone the reassurance that we'll be there. We'll make it. We're gonna make it.
I
So,
like your sentiment.
oh, that's what we're here for, right? Like we're here to help other people who are in this
Yeah.
position to get through. And we've been in it. We've committed ourselves to it. I've put my career on the line, and I've put my money on the line. I've put myself in the I put my own brand on the line. So it's like you know you got to have conviction.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that you think it's going to do about a $4. Because let me show you kind of like what I'm looking at as an upper boundary.
Sure. Do you need access to the screen? You should have it. Yes, you do.
Yeah. All right. You see this, right? So this was an indicator I found when I was doing a lot of investigation on Bitcoin. And here's what I thought it was very interesting is that it really respected it. It really respected, at least in the first half, right? Like look how it was always. Okay, it'll take some time to load, but you see how it always goes and it gets close to the red line and then comes back, tries to it becomes a little bit of this resistance, and it did that in the bull run, which was all the way through the first time that it put its, it put in its 62,000 and then I said, okay, let's apply this to Cardano. Let's see how Cardano. Ethan, can I kill him? Let's see for Cardano what it does. I was trying to tell you if I can kill him. And it not to the same level, but it definitely overpassed it. So let's say if we start getting back into this bull market, I'll tell you something. I'm going to be using that to kind of like make an assessment. Can it go to about $5 or so? But here's what's going to happen. I think this number, so then once we get back into the bull market, I think this red line is going to all of a sudden start going up. but this will be the line that I'll be checking to see if how we're doing, and are we going to be putting in an all-time high again, right? And how much? And I'll tell you something. My rule for next time is the moment that we surpass it, that's when I start scaling out.
Yeah, I wish I had better rules in the past for, sort of distribution events, and I just didn't. I felt like things were just going to continue to go up. Didn't really, I guess I was blindsided. But I've been investing since 2000s, before 2017, but I started getting crypto in 2017, and mostly just passively. But it wasn't until these last 9-12 months that I've taken the trading a little bit more seriously. And I don't like talking about trading too much on my channels because it's very subjective, and it's nobody really, you almost never find a trader that's successful. It's very rare to find successful traders.
Mm-hmm.
But just looking at some of the basic concepts, learning something like, for example, Elliott wave theory, or moving averages, understanding how those work, and how just understanding some basic, maybe reading a textbook on behavioral finance. Those things will give you much greater insight and grasp into sort of human nature when it comes to our fear and greed, and how we behave when it comes to these kinds of things, because it's very counterintuitive from reality. Our emotions kind of just take over, and we tend to make mistakes that are, sometimes you can't really undo these mistakes. So you have to be very careful with these kinds of things. But I like to think of these things in terms of strategies. So I look at different strategies, and then I compare each one against what the overall sort of the sentiment is. But looking at Elliott wave theory, I think you can find Elliottians that have different opinions about, you'll never find two Elliottians I've heard that have the same wave count, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think most Elliottians would agree that there's probably still going to be at least one more impulse wave, or at least a corrective wave to the upside, to give people an opportunity to sell more. So I think from now on, the lesson really is, for not just for me, but for a lot of people out there, is to take more profits, and allow you to take your profits when the market gives you that opportunity. Because I did okay. I did sell, but not as much as I would have liked to. But definitely don't be afraid to sell when things go up. And a lot of people don't like talking about, oh, I'm selling here or whatever. But I think that's something we should be more vocal about, don't you think?
No, absolutely. And I think that's always good advice, and it's always the toughest one to take, is when to sell. And I think that's why you always have to, yes, look at the Elliott waves, look at the moving averages, look at the Fibonacci. And I think what really helps sometimes is just to get some outside, or get a third party opinion on it. And I'll tell you something, I think Dan has been pretty accurate. I gotta say, Dan from Crypto Recruiter, I think his calls are pretty objective, and they're pretty fair. And if somebody was to look at his calls, and if you were to kind of like apply a 40% rule, and like, all right, he said start taking some dollars out, and at those rates, I don't think they would ever be wrong. So
I think there's also the short-term view versus the long-term view. And the more you look at the longer-term view, the more likely you're going to be right. Because it's usually people who are focusing, like I run into this problem where I'm focused on even if you're focused on just like, the daily chart, sometimes it's hard to, predict what's going to happen next. But if you look at the weekly chart and the monthly chart, you have a much higher possibility of calling the right direction, because it's a lot more obvious. It's a lot more clear. The trends are way more smoother when you look at the longer term. And so when planning on buys and sells, I think it's always good to really just focus on the long term and use the short term only when you've decided that you're looking for an entry or an exit point, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I only trade I only trade on the daily, but definitely I prefer to trade on the weekly.
Yeah,
and that's why I keep looking at the weekly ones, right? We keep looking at the weekly ones and saying like, oh, this is a good time to get in, or things are about to move the other way around. So, yep,
yeah.
I'm aligned.
So just to recap, what we talked about today is we've seen a consolidation of the whales. We've seen an increase in the whale holdings. We've seen the DXY beginning to roll over. And we've also seen the price base of Bitcoin and crypto and altcoins beginning to solidify. We don't know if this is going to be the bottom yet. I'm optimistic. I still believe that, we are looking for a bullish spring here any day now. I also, I should have read this earlier, but if you pay attention, we're coming up on the midterm elections, and I've seen some data out there, and I might repost this on my Twitter. So make sure you're following me on Twitter, and also follow LowFuss on Twitter at LowFussCrypto. And like, comment, subscribe, of course, all that. But I'll repost it. There's some data that shows that the midterm elections are, on average, we see the highest return on investment. So we are currently, according to that data, we're at the lowest point during an election cycle or a 4-year presidential cycle where equities in general, not crypto, but equities are usually having the lowest returns at these times. But right before the midterm election is when we start to see the price, for whatever reason, equities decide to do really well during the midterms, right? So we're coming up on that. So there's actually a lot of bullish confluence. And to be honest with you, I can't see a catalyst for, besides the equities market, which looks like hell. I don't see any catalyst for crypto going even lower than what it is, although it can. So there's definitely room to go down, but the upside potential is a lot higher for sure. So I think
except for nuclear war. I mean, except for the declaration of some kind of like
a black swan.
Exactly. I think that's the only thing at this point is going to really drive the markets across the board lower.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to take the weekend off and see what happens on Monday. But it is going to be a new month, which is a big thing. I feel like now all of a sudden I feel like going back into the charts and looking at it from the 1 month view. But I think we've already gone long enough on this stream, so we'll probably do another one in a few days, maybe Monday or Tuesday, and we'll look at the how the month closed out. We'll look at the monthly closes, and we'll just look and see where things are at from there.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Any final remarks?
No, I just wish everyone a fantastic and wonderful weekend.
Yeah, same. And we'll eventually get some guests on here too. We'll do like a little talk show. Cool. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for joining. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you